strengthen the rules for banks to make it less likely that this kind of bank failure will happen again.
That's certainly not something that we're encouraging.
That is happening right now.
Welcome to BetterWealth Reacts. My name is Caleb Williams, and on today's video, we're going to be reacting to potentially them admitting the quiet part out loud to why banks are failing and why they're paying back everybody, and maybe an agenda that's maybe the undercurrent of all the craziness going on. And I will say this, I don't want to be in all these conspiracy theories, so I very am level-headed as it relates to the things that I choose to talk about, the things that I choose to engage with. But I will say that there is a very fine line to when people get bailed out. You have to understand, number one, to why they're getting bailed out, and number two, how this is going to affect other people. And the whole thesis, and we're going to watch this video and I'm going to give my final thoughts at the end. This is the whole thesis as I set the stage, is if people are bailing out big banks and they're unwilling to say they're going to bail out the smaller banks and credit unions, what is that incentivizing you to do? If you have money in a community bank, which I started in, and I love community banks, and I think it's really, really important for communities to have community banks. But why would I have money in a community bank when, if that bank goes under, I might lose my money up above the FDIC insurance, versus if I had additional money, if I had more than $250,000, why would I put it in a community bank when I could put it in a bigger bank, knowing that sometime the FDIC may bail this bank out versus the other? So the whole concept is there an agenda that wants to limit small banks and credit unions and get people to flow money to big banks?
That is the question to ask.
With that setting the stage of, is there an agenda, really asking, is there an agenda for bigger banks to really rule the game and eliminate the small guy? We're going to watch this video and you tell me if you're seeing what I'm seeing, because someone literally shared this and said they're saying the quiet part out loud, and we'll see if you agree with that.
It's happening because you're fully insured no matter what the amount is if you're in a big bank. You're not fully insured if you're in a community bank. Will the deposits in every community bank in Oklahoma, regardless of their size,
this is right after they bailed out Silicon Valley Bank,
be fully insured now? Are they fully recovered? Every bank, every community bank in Oklahoma, regardless of the size of the deposit, will they get the same treatment that SVB just got or Signature Bank just got?
A bank only gets that treatment if a majority of the FDIC board, a supermajority of the Fed board, and I, in consultation with the president, determine that the failure to protect uninsured depositors would create systemic risk and significant economic and financial consequences.
So I'm just trying to explain what she's actually saying. She's saying a lot of words that aren't flowing very well. You have to jump through a ton of hoops to bail out a bank. And majority of people from Silicon Valley Bank had more money than $250,000 in deposits. So if you put money in a bank, up to $250,000 is insured by FDIC. Now, the sad reality is there's no vault of money that's sitting. We are the FDIC insurance. So it's like, we should never be happy for banks going under, because that's costing us in the long run. But welcome to the government. There's stuff is happening more than we know. So just add it to the tab. And so what they're asking is, okay, you guys bailed out Silicon Valley to depositors above $250,000. Can we expect that treatment on all the little guys? And they're like, well, there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and if it doesn't make a tremendous impact in the economy, it's going to be hard to justify, which is insane, because they're literally giving treatment to bigger banks that they wouldn't give to smaller banks.
So what is your plan?
Made that determination.
Right. So what is your plan to keep large depositors from moving their funds out of community banks into the big banks? We have seen the mergers of banks over the past decade. I'm concerned you're about to accelerate that by encouraging anyone who has a large deposit in a community bank to say, we're not going to make you whole, but if you go to one of,
this is a great question,
of our preferred banks, we will make you whole at that point.
That's happening because of supply and demand. Like, policies and actions have consequences, and people aren't dumb.
Look, I mean, that's certainly not something that we're encouraging.
That is happening right now.
That is happening because depositors are concerned about the bank failures that have happened and whether or not other banks could also
No,
fail.
it's happening
And
because you're
it's-
fully insured no matter what the amount is if you're in a big bank. You're not fully insured if you're in a community bank.
Well, you're not fully insured. And
You
the big-
were at Signature, and
the
it
big-
just barely met that threshold. You were at Signature.
Well, we felt that there was a serious risk of contagion that could have brought down and triggered runs on many banks. And that's something, given that our judgment is that the banking system overall is safe and sound, depositors should have confidence in the system, and we took these actions.
So there's a
to
special
discourage
assessment that's been done
contagion.
on community banks in my state and all banks across the country. Was there any discussion that that special assessment would only apply to the larger banks, or was it always assumed the special assessment would cover every bank, including rural banks in my state?
I think I'm not certain what the rules are around that. That's for the FDIC to determine.
It has been reported publicly that SVB had a large number of Chinese investors that are there, including some that were companies directly connected to the Chinese Communist Party. Will those individuals, companies, entities, and investors that are Chinese investors be made whole based on assessments in my banks in Oklahoma? So what I'm asking is, will my banks in Oklahoma pay a special assessment to be able to make Chinese investors whole from Silicon Valley Bank?
Uninsured investors will be made whole in that bank,
Uninsured, more than 250,000.
and I suppose that could include foreign depositors, but I don't believe there's any legal basis to discriminate among uninsured.
I get it, but
depositors.
I'm just saying that my community banks are going to pay this additional fee. It is always fascinating to me as well, the conversation that taxpayers are being made whole in this, that taxpayers are not going to have any kind of consequence on this. I'm sure my bankers are going to be very excited to know they no longer pay taxes.
All right, so that's the 4-minute clip. I would be really curious to hear your thoughts as it relates to that. Here's my final thoughts as it relates to this whole banking question. Is I think it's very problematic when you give certain banks, bigger companies, regardless, special treatment. I'm all about capitalism. I'm all about making, not trying to create regulations that prohibit other people from creating value in the world, but I don't love government intervention. I don't love government intervention in most things, including bailing out companies. So the argument on the flip side, because I always want to try to be as level-headed as possible, the argument on the flip side is like, listen, the ripple effect, if we let these banks fail, is going to hurt community banks even more. If you don't bail them out, everyone's going to be freaking out. No one's going to feel safe. People are going to pull their money, and it's going to accelerate the problem. I get that, and so that's where I don't love the fact that we're bailing out the banks, because it's like we agreed $250,000, more than $250,000, you're not insured. I also agree that we sell confidence. The U.S. dollar is backed by nothing other than confidence in the U.S. dollar, and banking is a vital part of our economy. It's a vital part of our just life. And if we lose trust in banking, community banks will also get hurt by that. People aren't going to just pull their money from the banks and go to the community banks. But I also think that other point is good is if you start actually asking the question, is there an agenda to eliminate the small banks and credit unions and go to the bigger banks where everything can be more regulated and we can control the big banks and all that stuff. So you can see both sides, and I think from a BetterWealth reaction standpoint, it's just very interesting to ask yourself this question about what is your thoughts. Would love to hear your thoughts from a standpoint. Do you think that Silicon Valley and Signature Bank should have got bailed out? Do you think they should have? Do you think they shouldn't have? Based on the perspective that I gave you, what would you do if you had to make the final call, knowing that in any decision you make, you're gonna get a pushback? Which one was better? I guess I would love to hear your thoughts. And do you support your community bank or do you support your credit union? And would love to hear your story as it relates to that. If there's any other clips that you'd like me to react to, please keep us in the loop. Obviously, sharing, liking these videos help other people get this message out. And on behalf of the entire BetterWealth family, I hope you live a super intentional rest of your day.